7:45, let's have a look at the papers this morning with the journalist Emma Wolfe and the editor of Spike, Tom Slater. Good morning,
good morning.
Good morning. Something not very jolly on the front of the Sunday Times, Emma. 500,000 children on antidepressants.
Yeah, really worrying story. I mean, we know that mental health amongst the young has been, you know, a bit of a crisis for a while. We know that, you know, we talk a lot about teenagers and sort of young people, especially the 18 to 24 group, who are often not working, not in employment, not in educational training, and them sort of languishing. But now it seems that children as well are actually being put on antidepressants for things like loneliness and anxiety and depression. It's not recommended for people under the age of 18 to be prescribed antidepressants. The problem is, of course, we don't have enough therapy, we don't have enough behavioural therapists, we don't have enough... these very, very long waiting lists. So when you have children presenting with problems, many doctors are feeling that they have pretty much nothing they can do except putting children on antidepressants, which is not advised at all, and they should be monitored, or just leaving them, you know, without any support. So it's not the right option, it really isn't.
When you say children, what ages are we talking?
Well, so last year there were over 4,000 under 10s who
Under
were put on
10?
antidepressants, which is extremely dangerous. At that age, your brain is still forming. You shouldn't be doing anything to kind of adjust your, you know, your brain chemistry in any way. There are really dangerous side effects for with antidepressants for any of us, but especially for children, self-harm, suicide, all of those kinds of things. And what they really need is, you know, why are you feeling this way? Why are you feeling sad? Why are you feeling lonely? And there are lots of reasons. Let's talk about the pandemic for 1 minute. The fact is, children were not in education for a couple of years.
Yeah.
They were not with their friends. These are things that children need. They need to be in education. They need to be at school. They need to be with their pals. They don't need to be at home on their own.
No.
They don't need to be, in my view, homeschooled. And they don't need to be staring at screens and phones and all of that. I think the internet and the whole social media world has done a huge amount of damage to our young people.
Totally agree.
Oh, my God, that's awful.
Totally agree.
It feels like a sort of perfect storm as well, doesn't it? Because on the one hand, you do have this over-prescribing, which has been an open secret for a long time, not just for young people, but also people coming forward with mental health concerns. It's a lot easier to pull out the prescription pad than it is to try and arrange in the NHS for some kind of actual therapy. There's also the problem, I think, which is that with the younger generation, not only have they been hit by the pandemic and all these other issues, but also I think there's a tendency to kind of over-medicalise them as well. So the kind of general ups and downs of life, they're encouraged to think about them in terms of maybe I've got depression, maybe I've got an anxiety issue. They go to the doctor with those kinds of concerns in mind. And so rather than, again, talking about understanding it as the kind of struggles that children might experience, it becomes medicalised. People want to put a label on it. You throw all this together and it's really toxic.
And we saw just a few days ago the rise in ADHD diagnoses. You know, they're putting a label on a child who is...
Absolutely.
I mean, my 3-year-old, yes, he's hyperactive, yes, he's attention deficit, because he's a 3-year-old.
It's 3.
But putting a label on ADHD, and when we were little, and I'm not saying, of course, there are children with serious issues and serious behavioural issues, but also, I mean, as a teenager, I spent most of my teenage years being up and down and miserable and happy, and it is part of life, absolutely what you say. You need to build resilience. And I was also talking to a GP friend of mine this morning, very early this morning, who said they don't work, antidepressants, for the majority of people. It's not what you need. What you need is to talk about why you're sad, why you're struggling, what's happening in your life. But for the majority of people, it's not a brain, it's not a chemical imbalance.
Yeah.
You know, so it isn't great to put, well, it's very, very unfortunate to put children on this at such an early age.
Yeah.
Tom, should we move on to yet another subject that's making politicians unhappy? This is Labour unions are complaining to Keir Starmer about Labour's use of the union flag.
Yes, so another Labour patriotism row. So apparently a number of MPs have been grumbling about the fact that a lot of the election leaflets will have the union flag on them, as one would expect.
The flag of a country.
Exactly, the nation in which they're standing. And their claim for this is that it puts off ethnic minority voters. I find this so bizarre. First of all, it's one of those situations where you're so woke you end up being a bit racist. Are you implying that these voters aren't British by dint of being from an ethnic minority and therefore they'll be upset by it? It's also just factually inaccurate. Whenever you survey ethnic minorities and Brits in general, ethnic minority Brits tend to be slightly, mildly more patriotic and have a firmer sense of their British identity than the white British public, funnily enough. And you can kind of understand why. Oftentimes, even if they were born and raised in this country, their parents might have made an active decision to join this nation. There are certain reasons for that. So I find this never-ending discussion about we can't be too patriotic because it will put off ethnic minorities. It's just completely detached from reality. And, you know, I'm not... there is a certain point in which Keir Starmer and his flag waving was getting a bit ridiculous at certain points. He was never pictured without one. And that sometimes there is an element of it just looking like you're overcompensating. I think people can be patriotic without just being symbolic and flag waving and so on. But the reasons that are being cited for why they're so uncomfortable with this, I think, just don't hold any water and are quite patronising, if anything.
Yeah, I'm quite fed up of being told that either the British flag or the English flag are bad, racist and...
Racist.
I'm fed up of being apologetic. I mean, you know, or that somehow the fact that we're a Christian country is wrong. We've just seen councils, Westminster Council, among others, celebrating Ramadan and not celebrating Easter. Well, what was all that about? You know, they didn't put up an Easter egg display until someone alerted them to this fact, and they had to run around Westminster trying to buy chocolate eggs or whatever. But actually, we don't need to be apologetic about the fact that, A, we're a Christian country. It doesn't mean that we don't welcome people of all faiths and none, and, you know, and yes, we do have a flag. We have a national flag, and it's the Union Jack.
Yeah.
Can we talk about chocolate again, please?
Yeah, we
Dad?
can.
Thank you. OK.
It's at least
You've
10
both got
minutes since I
chocolate
had my last
stories.
mini egg, yeah.
Chocolate section of them.
Go on, Tom, you go. Your chocolate story first.
This is a depressing chocolate story.
Oh.
But this is about why we're shelling out more for Easter eggs this year, because there's been this 12.6% increase in the cost of chocolate prices, coming down to the cost of cocoa, particularly in the kind of African nations where the vast majority of it is grown. It's been hit by droughts and so on, which has sent it shooting up. Also, Which magazine have done some investigation into this, finding some products are even 50% more expensive than they were last year, and some of them are shrinking.
Yeah.
At the same time,
Yes.
there's a phenomenon of shrinkflation. So whilst you're tucking into your Easter eggs, this breakfast with your gin and tonic next to you, as Dawn likes to do, apparently, that you might be noticing it's a fair bit more expensive than last year, as everything is, unfortunately.
Well, as everything is.
Yeah.
Mind you, it's all right for those people with lots of money, celebs and the like.
Yeah, this is just a silly, chocolatey celeb story, which I hope you'll indulge me in. This is Jennifer Lopez, Kylie Minogue, Alex Jones, Holly Willoughby, all talking about their love of chocolate. Holly Willoughby says, I love anything chocolatey. She's a chocoholic. Lorraine Kelly says her favourite indulgence... What do you think of this? Her favourite indulgence is a Terry's chocolate orange.
Oh, I love a chocolate orange.
I feel it's a bit of a
whole
throwback,
one?
but then again... Oh, yeah,
Yes.
a whole one.
Oh, you
she
could-
says I can happily get through an entire one in a matter of minutes.
Oh, yeah,
What?
it
That's
doesn't-
not hard.
It doesn't take long to
Once
eat
you get
chocolate
started on a
orange.
chocolate orange. But I
Oh,
feel
I
like they're a
couldn't.
bit passé, but they are quite good.
It's the one thing I asked for Christmas
Is
when
he
I was a little
chocolate
boy.
orange?
You know,
Yeah.
You sit on Santa's knee, and what would you like for Christmas? And I said,
A chocolate orange. But did you ever master you know the tap?
Yeah.
And they're meant to open?
Yeah.
That never
happened.
worked.
Never
it
happened.
does. It does. You've
No
just
way.
Gotta, I get every Christmas I get a chocolate orange.
Really?
You just have to. You've got to give it a hard.
No, I
whack.
find you wrench them apart, you get one bit stuck
Yeah,
to
yeah, and they're
another, but it doesn't
broken.
work.
I mean, I used to tuck them with hammers.
Bring some in, and I will
Oh,
demonstrate
really?
for you.
I bet you will, yeah.
Very skilled at chocolate orange tapping.
And also Jennifer Lopez says, who has an amazing body, says, I need chocolate. Also, it's very good for you. I could eat chocolate like there's no tomorrow. There we go.
I don't believe them.
No, I don't.
I
That's the
believe-
thing with
I don't do
these.
Sniffer chocolate.
A tiny bit, or a square of dark chocolate before
it's-
bed.
oh,
They always
yeah.
say that, don't they?
Yeah.
Give me a break.
Does
I
anyone-
start on the dark chocolate, that's it. The bar's gone.
Has anyone just had a square of chocolate and gone,
Ever?
That was delicious.
And how can you
That-
sleep when you know the chocolate's still in the cupboard?
You can't. I mean,
calling to you.
Look, my theory is with biscuits and chocolate, if there's any left, it gets lonely.
Yeah, it does.
It needs to join the rest of it in your tummy.
Absolutely. It better not be in that cupboard, because you don't want a naughty cupboard. It's better to finish it off and start again tomorrow.
Yeah. No, I think that's a very, very valid.
And Alison Hammond says, chocolate is like my crack cocaine. She says, I get a physical reaction and I just feel happy and then I want another.
At least I believe Alison actually
do
eats
believe
chocolate,
Alison,
unlike
yeah.
some of these skinny A-listers.
Yeah. Well, yeah.
Not that we're skinny shaming anyone.
No.
Don't do it, Dawn.
Yes, I did. Sorry.
No, we don't fat shame anyone, so we don't skinny shame anyone.
No, fair point. Here's the weather.